I've got to be honest. I really don't like having to create yet another account with yet another password to remember and having to trust the owners of the site to safely store that password. After all, I've already got quite a few accounts, as do most of us. Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, to name a few. I'd like to be able to use one of those to authenticate. In this demo, we're going to integrate Facebook authentication at the level of our security token service, using Facebook as an external identity provider. The first thing we need to do is register the application that needs to interact with Facebook. That's Identity Server. For Facebook, we have to do that at developers.facebook.com. For Google, it's at their Dev Console page. For Microsoft, it's in the Live Account Developers page, etc. You can find a list of your apps through the My Apps link on top of the page. Here, we'll have to create a new app and give it a name and a category. To make the process a bit faster, I already created one for this demo. Trip Company STS. The next step is getting the app ID and app secret. You can get that at the dashboard settings basic. You'll want to note these down because we'll need them when we configure Identity Server. Then we need to set the redirect URI where Facebook will be able to deliver its tokens to. You can find that on the settings page, Advanced. So this must be our Identity Server URI or a subdomain of it. That is, by the way, why I chose Facebook for this demo as an external provider. Facebook allows local host URIs to return its tokens to, which allows us to test this without rolling out. And that's it already for this part. Now let's go to our Identity Server. The first thing we'll want to do is install a helper package for this, containing the OWIN middleware for Facebook login. Any external provider must have associated middleware. The package is named microsoft.owin.security.facebook. Likewise, packages exist for Google, Twitter, Microsoft account logins, and a whole lot of other providers. You can read more on that in Identity Server's documentation. Up next is telling Identity Server we'll want to use additional identity providers. We can do that in Startup. Identity Providers expects an action on App Builder and String, where String is the type we want to sign in as. So let's add that Configure Additional ID Providers helper method. Important here is inputting the app ID and app secret we just noted down and got from Facebook. Authentication type must be a unique value to identify the external identity provider. We set it to Facebook. Sign in as authentication type must be set to the value we pass in via the sign in as type parameter. And that's it actually. Let's give this a try. We now see an external login part on the login page and a Facebook button. Let's click that. And we're redirected to Facebook. Facebook now asks us if Trip Company STS can receive my public profile information. Let's click OK. And we get an error, invalid account. What happened here? Well, in the previous demo, we created a custom user service. There was this authenticate external async method there. We haven't implemented that one yet. As this is an external login, that method will be called, and as it's not implemented, it will result in an invalid account error. We'll implement that one in the next demo. To be able to continue now, let's comment out that custom user service for a moment. And let's try that again. And there we go, we're logged in. That means Identity Server returned a valid identity token after we logged in using our Facebook credentials, and that was turned into a claims identity. But something odd is going on. We've lost our given name and family name values next to the logout button. And we're not seeing as much trips as we'd expect. I have a user account at the Trip Company, and I'm now using my Facebook account to log in, but these aren't linked. And we also don't have access to the Add Trip button. So what's happening here? Let's set a breakpoint in the startup of the MVC app right after we write out the identity token so we can see what that contains. And let's log out and log in again. Here's our identity token, but a few things are missing. No roles, even though we asked for that scope. No given name and family name either, even though we did ask for the profile scope. The sub value here is different as well. And we have a new claim here, name. So this is essentially a new user not linked to my existing account, and it's missing a few claims. Not all providers support the same set of claims and scopes. Given name was a claim we added to our user store, but we're not identifying through that. We're identifying through Facebook, and Facebook doesn't know that claim. As far as roles are concerned, Facebook doesn't even know that concept, and so on. We ask for a scope from identity server, and the client supports those scopes, but if there are no related claims at the level of the identity provider, it can't return that. Now what? There's different ways we can handle this. We'll want to avoid handling it at client side, as we want to keep that logic at the level of identity server so it will work for all our clients. The nice thing is that we can also do claims transformation at identity server level. We're back where we configured Facebook as an external identity provider. There's an unauthenticated method where we end up when authentication is successful and the context we get contains the authenticated user from Facebook. So let's input that and let's set a breakpoint here. And indeed, here's our Facebook user and an access token as well. As we've already noticed, all we get is a name and an ID from Facebook, used as sub-value. Now, how do we get other information from Facebook? I gave my first name and last name to Facebook, so how can I access that here? Let's have a look at Facebook's documentation for this. There's a lot of permissions we can request. Let's have a look at the public profile permission. That's a scope actually. When we request that scope from Facebook, which is requested by default and cannot be denied by the user, we should have access to first name and last name. Okay, then why isn't that information in our user object? Well, we have to request that from Facebook using that access token we got. So just as we're used to from our own implementations, we can use that token to request additional information from Facebook. Let's open that unauthenticated method again. To get that additional information, we must send a request to the Facebook graph, more specifically to the me feed, signifying the user's own information. We pass in the fields we want, first name and last name, and the access token, and as long as that access token contains the permission or scope in the more technically correct terminology that allows us to access the first name and last name fields, we'll get them back. Then we'll need to do something with that result. Let me add a Facebook user class containing properties matching those returned from Facebook. For our purposes, that's first name and last name spelled as they are returned from Facebook. Back to the unauthenticated method. We can now deserialize the result we get back from Facebook to our Facebook user class. And then we can add first name and last name claims as given name and family name claims. The last thing our client applications need is a role, but that concept doesn't exist at Facebook level. So we'll have to give it a fixed role. Let's say this is by default a free user. Okay, let's try that again. We got a successful result back. And the identity now contains a given name, a family name, and a role. Let's continue. Within our MVC application. And if we look at the identity token now, we can see it indeed contains this given name, family name, and role claim. So this works up to a certain point. We have given name and family name, but it's still another user. The sub-value is different because it's my Facebook ID. So we see less trips. And I'm not feeling very good about giving a user who logs in through Facebook a fixed role either. Can we improve on that? And while we're at it, ensure we can use our custom user service again. Yes, we can. We'll want to link this Facebook account, which is my Facebook account, to the account I already have in our custom user store. Let's check that out in the next demo.